Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, Sarah. How's it going?
Yeah, very good. How are you doing?
Doing all right.
Good, good. Congratulations on such an incredible show. I've played through pretty much all of it, nearing the end. From the instant I was hooked. So, well
Great.
done. Brilliant show.
Thank you.
What drew you to the role?
Well, I think any project with Sean Penn and Julia Roberts attached is pretty attractive. Beyond that, I was like, oh, it's about Watergate. Great. Based on the podcast Slow Burn, which my wife and I really, really enjoyed. Just an extraordinary re-examination of, a moment in American global media history that, we think we know the bare bones of what it's about. Very much used to hearing it from the Woodward and Bernstein journalistic side of things, and this really gets behind the scenes. Some of the characters that were actually involved in the scandal, in the cover up, and most notably the women behind some of those men. Martha Mitchell, wife of John Mitchell, the Attorney General, played by Sean Penn. Martha Mitchell, played by Julia Roberts. A very, very charismatic, outspoken, conservative media personality of the day, who was really one of the first to speak the truth about the situation, who was then horribly silenced by the administration. You've got Mo Dean, the wife of John Dean, who I play, played by Betty Gilpin, who, again, massively instrumental in how, in the decisions I think that John Dean chose to make, coming out of being involved in the scandal. Frank Wills, the guard who blew the thing wide open. So many of these characters that we're not used to hearing about in relation to Watergate, and they really get a chance, to have a light shone on their story.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, most people know Watergate through the reporters and through Nixon. So hearing about all these other people who were involved is quite interesting. How did you get to grips with John Dean himself? Because he's somewhat smart, he's somewhat a bit of a sleaze, he's ambitious, heavily ambitious. So what goes into playing a real life character like John Dean?
Yeah, well, ambition is key. I mean, the title of his autobiography is "Blind Ambition," so that helps. He really is a portrait in the ills of pandering to your ambition too much. His book's very fascinating. Mo Dean's book, I think it's called "A Woman's View of Watergate." Pretty fascinating angle. Then you've got Gordon Liddy's book "Will." Not a big fan of John Dean. Very interesting take there. There was a fascinating book published just as we were going into production, I think, called King Richard, a book by Michael Dobbs, which is a really, really brilliant, very thick tome about Watergate. And actually, if you listen to the audiobook of King Richard, you get in between the chapters, they play the relevant sections of the Nixon tapes. So you get to hear, albeit very poor sound quality, but, John Dean, in sort of muffled tones talking about, this cancer on the presidency. And, it's pretty chilling stuff when you hear the real life voices and then, go into a chapter, sort of deep diving about, exactly what happened. And so there's a wealth of material. There's also hundreds of hours of footage of the hearings, some of them very, very boring, but, great for character study. And of course, John Dean is still alive and regularly wheeled out on CNN as their sort of resident corruption expert. So he's had a busy few years.
Absolutely. And I find it really fascinating that this show almost treats them like a slapstick act, I guess, and there's a real comedy.
Yeah. I mean, there's a great absurdity to the whole situation, and if it didn't have such devastating real world consequences, it would be total slapstick comedy. Some of it is ridiculous, and I loved that Matt Ross really encouraged, certainly in the way he cast it, comedic leaning actors who have a facility for playing a bit fast and loose with the text, improvising, just really bringing out the idiocy of some of the situations, as well as, some more serious and dramatic and tragic situations. It runs the gamut.
Absolutely. There's a wonderful line that the FBI agents say, which is, what if they were all morons? What if they're not all masterminds? They're all just morons.
Yeah, and many of them were.
Absolutely. And what I find fascinating about John Dean is his constant approval for Richard Nixon, because Nixon never appears. He's always like a shadow,
shadowy background figure in our telling, which I kind of love. It's he's a sort of an offstage character. They're sort of waiting for Nixon kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, he's just a huge figure. You know, his portrait looms large in many scenes. You know, and he's a constant presence, and everyone's jostling. You know, I was thinking just now of the show Succession, where everyone's jostling for power, trying to be the next in line. And just the games that people play, the shenanigans, the fucking skullduggery that goes on to try and get closer to Nixon, get that seat next to him at the conference, get that seat on Air Force One. It's pathetic, really.
Absolutely. And he's constantly rebuffed, but rebuffed in a kind way. Like he's sent on a honeymoon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
constantly fooled by Nixon.
Yeah. And I kind of like the idea that he didn't fully understand what he was getting into, but by the time he did, it was sort of too late. And, I don't think many of the people involved really thought they were out and out bad guys, but they definitely were prepared to compromise a huge amount, ethically and morally to hold their place in the sort of, Nixon firmament.
Absolutely. And I would be remiss about mentioning what you said on the One Show yesterday. And there is a likeness to today's governments, not just in the UK, but in America as well. How did you draw upon real life?
I mean, it doesn't take a genius to spot the parallels, really. I was just very happy to have the opportunity, especially this week. It is extraordinary how, desperately certain individuals are clinging to power. Unfortunately, it's a common thread in almost any administration in the world. This idea that, corruption can be sort of swept under the carpet and an entire population can be sort of gaslit. And it's like, oh, actually, there's a war on, so let's not worry about that. It's like, well, maybe we should.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations are in order because it's all everyone's talking about right now. It's all over. Loads of people have been like, tell him congratulations. He's the man of the moment.
Thank you very much.
The other thing I love about your character is the relationship that John Dean has with Mo Dean, who's a Democrat and very liberal. And they come to heads a lot, but they also develop this beautiful, loving relationship. How is that working with Betty on this? Fantastic.
I mean, what a gifted, funny, brilliant actress. And very, very lucky to have her as my partner in crime for this one. And it's, the show is, very much a portrait of two marriages. You've got John and Martha Mitchell, played by Sean Penn and Julia Roberts, but then the Deans as well. And a marriage that survived that situation in a way that the Mitchells didn't. They're married to this day. They're still alive, John and Mo Dean. And, both of their books recount how much this, potentially devastating moment really strengthened their marriage. And they went from a place of secrecy to great openness and transparency, and that strength of communication is a real testament to their marriage. So it was I couldn't have done it without Betty, really, and just sort of exploring what that marriage meant to both of them and what it became. Really fascinating insight.
Absolutely. I do think one of my favorite scenes is when you bring her to the Republican Party and she's just under her breath just commenting on all the people.
Oh yeah, she's like, you have blood on your hands. That was an improvisation on Betty's part. I'm thrilled that they kept them in. Yeah, there was a lot of that going on. It was great.
Really, really good. And also, like you mentioned before, that Matt Ross does bring the comedy and the drama elements to it. What's it like working with him as a director on this show?
Yeah, I love working with actor directors. There's often a shorthand there. There's a real sort of mutual respect, I think, and he cast it with a lot of people that he knew and loved, which is always lovely. People he vouches for, and so you're in good hands. But he also cast it with people who are comedic leaning, can do drama and comedy, who have a facility for improvisation and playing a bit fast and loose with the text, and just sort of bringing out the wit and the absurdity, and I think that it comes across.
Amazing. And like you said, there's so many different actors and characters here, but I am the biggest Legion fan.
Oh, great.
So seeing you get reunited with Hamish Linklater I kind of did like a little squeal. How was that reunion?
Absolutely delightful. I love Hamish. He's so brilliant and so funny in this, as he was in Legion as well. I think he's a brilliant actor, and any opportunity to work with him is great.
Absolutely amazing. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. I can't wait for you to see it. It's honestly an incredible show and performance.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey!